Well, I think ChatGPT and AI will be coaching people in the future, and it won't be doing it on its own. It will be doing it under the direction of people like me. The
Right.
smart coaches that really understand how to use AI will integrate that into how they coach their people.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Book More Show. It's Stu Bell here, and today joined by Brandon Fuchs. Brandon, how's it going, buddy?
Great, man. Thanks for having me.
Real pleasure. I always say when we're talking to authors, it's always great to, if I haven't had a chance to speak to you before, it's always great to put that kind of the bits and pieces that I've got from seeing the book process go through with the team to the real person and then dive underneath the surface a little bit. So excited to share that with everyone. Let's start by getting everyone else up to speed then. Give us the background on what it is that you do and the organization, and then we'll get into the book.
I am the president and founder of the Elite Builder Society, which has been running for about a year and a half. Prior to that, I've got about 2 decades of high-end residential and commercial construction experience. I've probably executed well over $100 million worth of projects in my life. I've also worked industrial, and I got to a point in my career in the construction space where I was no longer like fulfilled by the projects, so to speak, which sounds crazy to a lot of people, even the people that I coach today, but I was no longer fulfilled. And that's the end of it. And I shifted to mentoring people. Um, and the first person that I mentored, he was out of the US. He's from San Diego, and he's like, "Hey, would you help us set up our company?" And I said, "Well, you're no non-conflicting to me, so I mean, it doesn't hurt me to do this."
Yeah,
And I said, "Sure, I'll do it." And so I took everything I learned from construction, from doing, which I was really, really good at, by the way, and then implemented that into his business, shared with him all of these tools without concern. Without any reservations, without holding back, I just gave him literally everything I possibly could. And his business exploded in a short period of time, very, very quickly. And then I got
oh,
addicted to
fantastic.
helping people.
Right.
So then I entered into coaching full time about a year and a half ago, and I'm currently coaching almost 60 people personally through in the
Mainly in
contracting space all
construction, or?
across North America. All
Okay.
across North America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And mainly construction contracting or contracting
Yeah, they're
in like
primarily
services?
general contractors, some subcontractors like electricians, plumbers, HVAC guys, but mostly general contractors and kind of larger renovators doing,
Right.
$500,000 projects. Even the small guys that are just starting out doing the smaller projects, we've had some great success with. So
Yeah.
that kind of forced me into the creative of this book, which we're going to dive
Yeah.
into.
It's that whole helping the contractor side of things just strikes me as the E-Myth problem, that old Michael Gerber book of someone's an expert in what they do, and then they branch out from working from someone else to starting their own business, and they immediately run up against this idea of they're a technical professional, but they're not necessarily a business builder, and that's when it all starts falling to the side, and you just create a bigger job for yourself than a business. So I imagine that the guys who are working with you really see that amplified return because not only are they the experts in what they do, but now you bring in that structure and experience and expertise. So I guess it really allows them to take off a lot more than just trying to trial and error it themselves.
It really what happens is, I mean, you know this. You've been in the book industry for how long? How long have you been doing this for?
Yeah, like 15 years now.
Yeah. So if I were to start in the book industry on day one, right, and you're on year 15, you have a more in-depth understanding of the wins and losses that experienced along the way that have shaped and crafted your decision approach on how
Right,
to provide services for clients just like me, right? And it's the same thing in construction and marketing your business. The crazy part is that because now I'm hyper focused on coaching people, it's now amplified even greater because now I'm not just using what I've learned and what I've succeeded with. I'm actually using what they're learning and what they're
right.
succeeding with. And so I'm actually becoming, I find myself to becoming, I'm not trying to like prop an ego around this, but like I have a very, very in-depth understanding of what it takes to be successful in this industry, more
Yeah,
so than I ever did even before, because now implementation with so many people has proven it time and time again. And it's the same thing with you. Like if you were to coach somebody into how to build a book writing business, guaranteed their success in parallel with your success would be completely different, right? If you
right.
started your business on day one, like you did, and they started their business on day one, but you implement everything you've learned
Yeah,
into their business, they're going to surpass you like
yeah.
within the first 6 months.
Right. It's so funny, isn't it? Particularly when you come in with a framework and that framework you then get to apply at scale and the speed of iteration of thinking through that framework and how it applies to the different things, but also without the baggage of having to do the day-to-day delivery that they're delivering, you can just concentrate on that opportunity and the strategic view and then seeing it through the lens that you've got and at the scale of all of the different businesses. It really allows you to kind of refine that thinking. The framework that we use for the books, I mean, each book's different, but there's definitely the underlying. A 90-minute book is very specifically a thing. We try and bring that framework because we know it's the most effective way to start conversations. It's not people get caught up in the traditional book world or what they think should be in a book and not necessarily what the outcome is. Because again, when you say book, you think of like a Barnes and Noble shelf more than you do a Google ad. But in
Right.
reality,
But also that tactic came from trial and error, right?
right,
You didn't just wake up 15 years ago or however long ago and said, this is the exact framework that will produce a successful book.
right,
It came from time. And what I do is similar to you, but I took my time, or I take my time and my experience, and I give it to everyone that I work with without holding back, and it just catapults them to another level so
yeah.
quickly.
It's interesting coming with that kind of like abundance view. A lot of the people listening here will be strategic coach clients or coach adjacent for in that part of the world, and the whole kind of abundance mentality that's in that space and Genius Network. We've got a big crossover with those guys as well. But this whole idea of abundance versus scarcity, I think in the micro level, people fear and think, oh, if I'm building this house or if I've got this electrical job, it's a zero sum game. That means that someone else doesn't. Therefore, I have to take something away from someone else in order to get this thing. But as soon as you step away from that one individual task to the bigger picture, it really is a very abundant world that we live in. And I think there's we'll get into some of the AI stuff in a little bit because it's pretty fundamental to what we're both doing. But there's a fear and a scarcity around the AI world that the robots are taking the jobs, and this means that the humans will lose out. When what it really means is that the robots are allowing the humans to amplify, and just as moving from the kind of agricultural to industrial age machines kind of humans didn't suffer, it kind of amplified the opportunity. It's the same with what you're talking about coaching, the ability to give everything, and it's an amplifying world. It's not a you don't feel like you need to hold back at all because there's more than enough work for everyone out there.
Yeah, well, I think ChatGPT and AI will be coaching people in the future, and it won't be doing it on its own. It will be doing it under the direction of people like me. The
Right,
smart coaches that really understand how to use AI will integrate that into how they coach their people. Because literally, like, I mean, this isn't really a great comparison because people can't really conceptualize what this looks like, but AI is like the creation of fire. It's mind blowing and it's transformational. Fire changed the world,
yeah,
right? AI will change the world, not with robots. I mean, robots are going to come at some point, but they're going to be doing the inefficient tasks that humans are forced to have to deal with that makes us inefficient. The world moves faster each and every day because the objective is to systemize and optimize your life, right?
right,
That's what AI really is best used for. It's not to replace anyone, it's to replace inefficiencies and inaccuracies.
Yeah.
And I think like my son, I talk about this quite a bit. Anytime the word AI comes up, he just finished grade 11, and at the beginning of his first semester, he ended up getting a zero on an assignment because the teacher said, "Well, we scanned your assignment and it said you used AI." And
Right.
he and his mother was like, "Well, you shouldn't be using AI. It's cheating." And I'm like, "No, you should be using AI because if you don't know how to use AI when you leave high school, you'll have no idea how to live." And
Yeah.
so I got in a bit of not an argument, but a conversation with his teacher, and they didn't know how to use it, which is
Right.
the scariest part.
That's yeah.
And I explained to the teacher, I was like, this is the framework on how I teach my kids how to use AI. They don't cheat. They use it as a resource tool to create more efficiency, more accuracy, and faster execution so they can complete things at a higher level and retain more information. And the teacher was floored that we were like that integrated with it. We're not just saying, please answer this question.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
more detailed so that you understand. And I said, you really should have gave him 110% because his assignment was perfect because that's the execution rate that you should be striving for,
Yeah.
like greatness. You should try to be the
Yeah.
greatest. If you asked him back later about his assignment, he would be able to respond and basically provide that level of depth that he gathered from it, and that
Yeah.
shows that he knows what he's doing. It didn't take it away. So AI
It's
is
interesting.
important.
Yeah, and it's interesting that with every new technology, I guess, there's the people who are, with everything in life generally, there are people who are quick changes and enjoy change, and people who, at the other end of the spectrum, don't want any change whatsoever. And that kind of manifests itself in every single way. And the idea that AI is the problem, when actually AI is the category, it's like saying electricity is the problem. Well, okay,
Right.
if electricity is keeping the lights on at night so you can do something, that's not a problem. If electricity is shocking you because it's something's poorly installed and it's electrocuting people, that's a problem. But electricity is not the problem. It's always difficult. And again, this sentence might get this podcast flagged somewhere, but it's a bit difficult because it's triggering. Like, do guns kill people or do people kill people? And that's kind of, I'm intentionally
Right.
using that example because it's emotionally driving because you've got people at very both ends of the spectrum. But the question, at least address the question in your own mind. Pick whichever answer you want. It's up to you. But at least address the question. AI in that school environment, if your son had just gone in and put a one-shot prompt and got some words out and never edited it, just stuck it in a document and submitted it, that's a problem. But if he spent seven
Mhm.
hours researching and went to the breadth and depth of three levels deeper than all of his colleagues went to, schoolmates went to, that's not a problem at all. So it's this idea that just labeling something to kind of get back, I guess, the guys that you work with, labeling contractors a problem because someone had a bad experience here. Well, that's very different from the person that you're working with, where yes, they're a contractor, but the experience that their clients have are completely different. So yeah, this labeling thing, it's a
Yeah,
lazy
that, and
shortcut.
then the craziest part is you'll see another book. We'll be writing another book because that moment with that teacher triggered me to do something more. So I officially downloaded ChatGPT. I'm gonna say 2 years ago, not that long ago.
Right.
I was at a networking event. Somebody said, "Hey, you should check this out," and I'm like, "What the heck is this?" And I downloaded it, and I went in and I was like, "Tell me something cool," and that
Right.
was it. And then I was like, huh, I really knew something. And then I just kept going. And it was like, I remember, so I'm 43 years old. And I remember when a calculator was introduced in school and we
Right.
were frowned upon by using the calculator. And I was just like, but why? But why? Like I'm so much more efficient and I'm so much more, my responses are better. Everything's more accurate. And it was the same kind of feeling when I touched ChatGPT as the feeling when I touched the calculator. I was
Yeah.
like, wow, this is cool. And I mean, from there to now, where my grasp of what we can do with AI is just on another level. Like
Yeah.
that individual situation with my son's teacher catapulted me to create an educational tool that I'm like going to be launching in probably the next 6 to 8 months, which will be revolutionary.
Yeah.
to say the least.
So let's talk about that bridge then, and then we'll talk about the book as well. So the contractors wouldn't necessarily be the first group of people that you'd think about as using technology or AI tools
Hmm.
to leverage their business,
Yeah.
because you tend to think of, okay, that's programmers and office workers, that's the group to be most impacted, but contractors physically working with their hands, what's the opportunity? But I mean, obviously, you and I both know that there's a huge opportunity for them, particularly probably on the stuff that they're least enthusiastic about doing, which isn't the hands-on work. So talk a little bit about this bridge now that you've got between your AI world and what you're trying to introduce to the contractors and how that all ties together to make them more effective.
So contractors can be, there's several different types of contractors. I have been all of them. I've been the guy that builds everything. I've built custom kitchens on my own. I've built a home on my own. I've framed houses. I've done foundations. So I've done all of the on-site stuff, right? And then I've also I've worked as an employee managing people for somebody else. I managed 100 people, super, super young. And so that's a different level. So you got the guy on site doing it. You got the guys that are just, the employees managing other people for somebody else. And then you've got the business owner, right? And so the business owner is forever trying to figure out how to make more money and how to become more efficient and how to stay relevant in the
Right.
world. And the craziest part is if you ask ChatGPT, even on a very low level, how do I do X, Y, and Z? It will give you a response. So the most successful people are the ones that converse with somebody and problem solve together, right? They problem solve. They have situations, they're pulling, they're asking, I literally, whether it might be psychotic or not, I think the best entrepreneurs are a little bit crazy. And I got into a deep dive with my ChatGPT to the point where I named it. I gave it a name and it continued
Yeah.
on and it started sourcing. And as the versions continued to increase and continue to improve, it started giving me better problem solving responses.
Yeah.
And so the merger between construction and really it doesn't matter. The merger between ChatGPT and every business is problem solving and efficiency. And so what I'm doing is most of the cases, the contractors that I work with have just downloaded ChatGPT or have no idea what it is. And we dive into it right from the beginning. We use ChatGPT regularly to help them problem solve so that they can do it on their own, right? It's like
Yeah.
having a brilliant assistant that is at your beck and call for almost for free.
It
I
is
have the paid
crazy, isn't
version.
it?
I'd highly recommend you get the paid
Yeah.
version, but almost for free. And you can ask them questions 24 hours a day. So if you're a psycho entrepreneur that is hyper focused on not necessarily working, I don't call it like, like I love what I do. So I'm not working, I'm doing what I love.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't become, a nuisance or an inconvenience. It's just a part of my
An
my
exciting
day to day.
opportunity. Right.
It's every day is an exciting opportunity. I get to wake up and do something great. And every day, shockingly, it's moving so much faster. Like what I've built with my coaching company in a year and a half is mind-boggling to most coaches. We have hit well over $100,000 months in a year and a half. Most of them have, they're hitting anywhere between $10,000 to $20,000. We were there within our first like 2 or 3 months, and we didn't do that without ChatGPT. ChatGPT
Yeah.
helped us solve the problems that we are facing as we're navigating the growth of the business. And so what we do with contractors is the same thing. We just help them with tools and tactics that we've built. We help them integrate these tactics into their business that set them apart from their competitors very quickly.
Yeah. That point that it's an active conversation with a partner who is trying to be as helpful as possible and has limitless knowledge. And as the partner understands you more, the AI model understands you more, its answers get more and more and more relevant to you. But the point that you made about the calculator earlier, and I've got a couple of years on you, just turned 50 this year, but similar deal. Can remember when calculators were super frowned upon because everyone was saying, no, you need to know how it works, the underlying piece. And I think that's going to be the difference with everyone's going to be using AI tools in the future. They're going to be ubiquitous, but there is going to be a difference between those who do it effectively and less effectively. And like the example of the homework, if people are just trying to one question, one shot it, you mean you'll get an answer. It'll probably be reasonable, but the people who learn to converse with it and know what they're actually trying to do. So for your contractors, they know the business, so they know that if they get a response that they can tell if it's going off the rails a little bit, if it's not quite either interpreted the question correctly or given the right answer. But within 2 or 3 conversations, you can really dial it in, and then it really gets laser focused and adding to your knowledge. It's just prompting you and giving you anchor points for more conversations or more opportunities or more ways and reasons to reach out to people. So that skill of being the discussion partner, of understanding that, okay, I'm not necessarily going here for the answer, I'm going here for a discussion on what the answer could be. That is a big game changer. So for your guys, you were saying that often these people are just exploring these tools for the first time. Is there a pushback, or are they excited about this idea? Are they looking for that one-shop solution, or are they excited by having someone to discuss it with?
Very small group. My program's a high ticket program. Like we like I have taken people from $2 million to $7 million in less than 6 months. So, what is that
Fantastic.
worth to people? You
Yeah,
know what I
yeah.
mean? We've over 10x a company that started at $130,000 in their first year of business, and they're currently banging on $5 million in revenue
Nice.
um, in 9 months.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
there is a handful of people that are like the person that said you need to know how to use the calculator that have a little bit of pushback. But most of the people that enter into my program are really looking to grow and they are willing to listen to me and they pull their
Right.
ego aside and they're like, this guy's obviously doing this shit for other people. It's been
Yeah.
clearly effective for other people. Maybe we should just listen for a minute. Like, let's just listen for a minute. And then when it happens after the first or second time where they're like, oh, this idea really worked, like, and I didn't know this was a thing, and I
Right.
used it, and I incorporated ChatGPT to help me facilitate what he had told me to do. They're all in at that point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Those are the guys that are in. The ones that are like, oh, you used ChatGPT to help you do this, and they're just like, well, you're cheating, and
Right.
and those
Back to
there
the teacher
those not there's
example.
like a zero back to the teacher example. So there's
Yeah,
not a
yeah.
lot of those, but I work best with people that really want to see success.
Yeah, yeah. And as you that example you gave, or the illustration of the people who are willing to come in and put their ego aside because they see the greater outcome, whether it's you tell them that they need to use ChatGPT or an AI tool, or whether you tell them they need to scratch their nose on the one side and pat their head 3 times in the morning. I mean, whatever the obviously GPT is going to be a bit more effective than that, but putting the ego aside to say, okay, this is what we're here to get the outcome. We believe this is the right place. This is what we're being told. But the benefit is that it's such a short, it's not like the patting your head 3 times and maybe in 6 months something magical will happen. It's within minutes. You can see the response within minutes. And I think what I
Mhm.
love about the approach that you've got of combining the knowledge and the framework and the experience, which would have been the same case 10 years ago. Like if you
Yeah.
were at this point 10 years ago, you would still trying to be doing it. But every call, you'd be joining a group coaching call, probably pre-Zoom. So maybe on go to webinar, God, if you remember that back in the day, or even just a conference call, and then you'd be telling people the same thing over and over again, and then they'd be going away and thinking, I'm definitely going to implement what Brandon said this week, and then another week goes by and they've been busy and they didn't do it, and then they forgot. Like just the effectiveness of everything. Whereas now they can turn up to a call, you can give them an idea, talk about it within the group so they understand. Now you've got a tool, an AI tool that backs it up so that when they don't have FaceTime with you, they can just go back into this tool and have the conversation and talk about it. It just allows them to execute things so much faster. I mean, it's really a
Oh,
fundamental game changer for coaches, I think.
one of the specific tools. So one just a couple days ago, one of my contractors, he's growing rapidly, very rapidly, leans in just so most guys lock into a program with me for 6 months and then right now, actually, statistically, most of them are extending another 6 months. They're not leaving.
Right.
And they're
Right.
entering into bi-weekly coaching. Obviously, something's working. But this guy
Yeah.
in particular, we just re-signed, and he paid in advance. He's just like, here, paid in full, take my money. And so he's hiring what we've identified as a controller in his business. So he's the CEO and his CEO of his company. He's probably going to be hitting $10 million in 2 years of business. He's doing 10 plexes, multifamily. He started as a renovation company, and now we've got him catapulting into some large scale, you know, residential projects. And so we brought on a controller, and him and I we're talking about, what does this position look like? How are we going to integrate it with the construction management software that we've kind of got him implemented in with his virtual assistants and all the people that we've helped him kind of build within his business. Because it's another thing, we use virtual assistants, which is also weird in construction when you have,
Right.
an assistant in the Philippines is just weird to some people, but it's like, it's efficient.
It's so funny,
And
isn't it? Because you
so,
get so in the like in the info marketing type world, like a lot of our cohort is in that space. So you
yeah,
get so used to these tools and these things, and then you forget when you're talking to real world business owners, there's just no, they just haven't been exposed to it at all, and there's no familiarity. So
no.
yeah, it's funny that you say that it has that people just see it as something unusual, where for us, I mean, it's just yeah, that's what we've been doing for 20 years, well, 15 years.
Yeah.
Sorry, I
So,
interrupted.
so when, yeah, no, you're good. So, he's talking to me. He's nervous. He's a little bit like, I don't know what this position means because it has a lot of it takes a lot of it takes a lot of duties and tasks off of him, big ones that he
Right.
has to make. And
Yeah.
I told him, I was like, at the end of the day, you execute at 100%. Anybody else is expected to execute at 70%. They're not going
Right.
to execute at 100% of what you're capable of doing. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that we have the correct systems in place to help them advance that 30% gap that they're failing at. And
Right.
so he's like, but what should the job description and schedule and like what does it look like? I was like, we're just gonna do it right now. And he's like, what do you
Yeah.
mean? I was like, we have a note taker on this call, an AI note taker on this call. You and I are gonna converse about the position, what it looks like when they start, what their duties are. We literally talked about it. I had my executive assistant build out an SOP based on the AI recording and
Yeah.
sent it to him. He was like, "This is freaking brilliant," and literally 15 minutes. So tell
Yeah.
me that if the people that are out there that don't use AI don't know how to use it, so they're not surrounded by people that know how to use it. But like we literally built out a job description, we built out the SOP for them, like for their full work SOP, and I was like, it doesn't need to be perfect. It's a starting point. Right.
Yeah.
It's just one starting point. They're going to come in as a controller. They're going to manage your projects, manage the schedule, just like a navigator. They're going to do all these things. And we literally just had a conversation about it. You and I, and my contractor, we used our AI note taker. So we didn't have to sit there and write shit down and do all these
Yeah.
things. It was efficient. But when I sent it to him, he was hooked. He was like, and we've been doing this for a while, but that was another level that he just didn't understand. And this is the
Yeah.
point that, I want, anybody who's listening to this, if they have not by now downloaded ChatGPT, you need to and immediately go for the paid version. It's like 20, $30
Yeah.
a month.
Yeah.
Then it's limitless with what you can do, but it's crazy what you can do with something when you know how to use it.
And the idea that nothing is, I think we get fixated, not we, but some people get fixated on the idea that something needs to be perfect. And another tool, oh, I tried that and it didn't work, or I tried that and it got something wrong, or I tried that and it gave me some completely random answer that made no sense. Rather than understanding, like you say, even if you bring an employee on, 70% compared to if you were doing the job previously is really the best you can hope for. Hopefully over time it will build up. But applying that same logic to the tools and that speed of implementation from going from 0 to 70%. And realistically, I mean, you and I know, particularly once you've used it for a little bit, it's probably going to go from 0 to 85, 90% close on that
If
first
you draw if you
bang.
lower your ego, right? If you lower your
Right,
ego and you actually are like, I'm gonna go all in on this, it's going to give
right.
me something great. And even if it doesn't give you what you fully need, it has already given you something that you didn't have before.
Yeah, yeah. Something that you can either manually work with, so like the SAP or the job role, I just quickly dial this in, or oh, as I'm reading this, I've thought about another thing to add in, or just
Yeah.
another prompt or two back and forth to dial in the little pieces. It's we're recording this in, well, we're now middle of late June, I think we are now. The summer holidays have just started here in Pennsylvania, so I've lost track of time because kids and people around at the house and I'm not used to it in the week. But as we're recording this, in the last 2 weekends, we've just launched another business, book-related business, but the whole thing was from prompting back and forwards. The ideation, the client finding, the dialing in the single target market, the outreach campaigns, the emails, even building the websites was all prompt based. And I want to say 2 weekends. I mean, it was probably a little bit more than that in the week, but that was just me doing it in kind of spare time. And like you, I enjoy doing this as well. So spare time kind of bleeds over to work time and
Yeah.
family time and everything
Yeah.
else. But the idea that you can take something and run with it, I can get sidetracked on this quite easily because it is such a productive rabbit hole that you can go down, and it really does open up the capability that you've got to do things as an individual. Like we're a small team, you're a small team, the contractors you're working with, probably a number of those are small teams as well. It really does give you a handful of virtual employees that you can just turn on and off as you need them. But to get back to the book, let's talk about that sometimes because there's an interesting take on the book that you did individually for you, and then the thing that you're trying to get it to do for the readers. That's an interesting bridge as well. So, talk quickly about the well, I guess about what the book is and who it's targeted to, and then the process for bringing it together.
The book has been I'm even getting emotional about it just because it was such a journey. Weirdly enough, I never got emotional about this before, so it's the first time I've actually been able to talk about it. But the journey as a contractor, if I'm being completely honest, I don't know if I can swear on this, but it's really
Yeah, go
freaking
for it.
hard.
Yeah,
It's really hard. Like when you start your business, just like any business, the first couple of years are really hard. Most businesses fail within 5 years. Most businesses fail before they even start
right.
because they don't have the tools and the resources to build a proper business. They don't know what they're doing. They just go and fail, go and fail, go and fail. And so my journey for the first couple of years, I left a really high paying, well established position at a facility, very young, superintendent, very young. And I left them on my own because the people I was surrounded with weren't my type of people. There was a lot of drugs, infidelity, a lot of things. I just
Right.
didn't want to be around these people. And so I left. I went on my own and I made no money, like $0 for a long time, and my family didn't know. I would wake up in the middle of the night puking, stressed out, freaked out. What
Yeah.
am I doing? But somewhere along the way, I loved what I was doing. I loved it. I don't know why. And that's where the psychotic part comes in. I just never gave up. And that's, probably stupid. But at the same time, I just never gave up. And so the book comes from a place of real life shit that I went through, and it's the roadmap on how I went from that to, executing well over $100 million worth of work, building multi-million dollar projects. That road is not like straight, it is jagged, and it doesn't need to be. And that's what's happening right now with a lot of the contractors that we work with. Instead of them going down this jagged, unfamiliar road, I'm there to support them for that next move, that next decision, to help them. The book is a micro version of that in a digestible format. The craziest part is obviously all this discussion about ChatGPT and AI eludes that I obviously used AI to help me a little bit within this book, right? But I went a whole another level, and the source material was the stuff that I've been coaching people on, the
Right.
stuff that my journey I've been talking about. Like it's not, a couple pages of source material. It's hundreds of thousands of pages of source material that have helped me script a roadmap for people in construction for success. And it is geared towards the guy that's potentially just starting out, um, that left his business, that or left previous employer, that has skills and abilities, is really good at what he does, doesn't know how to run a business. And so he's like, I got to run a business, got to go on my own. And so I wanted to insert something like very strategic with my younger version of myself, right where I would have needed it, right before I was going to, puke, or right before I was going to have a hard day, or right before I was going to fail at something. I needed something for the other version. I felt that I owed this to my younger version of myself. And then I took it a step further and I made every chapter a tool. So
Right.
I originally thought about taking every chapter of this book, this journey, this 15, I think it's 15 chapter journey. I originally thought about, putting a little exercise that people could use. And I'm like, it's the world, everything's digital. What am I going to give them a piece of paper and say, yeah, don't go write on this little piece of paper about, this tactic that you can write into your
Mailing your
business?
answers on a
No.
postcard with a self-addressed
Yeah,
envelope.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, send me a little postcard. No, so I then took and built a further detailed custom GPT. And for those of you that don't know what a custom GPT is, it's basically like my brain has been put into GPT. And now every time you ask it anything, it will give you a my response,
Yeah.
which is crazy. The next level is instead of you trying to figure out what to ask it about that chapter, I've given you the tool to ask me how you could do this with your business with every chapter. And so any contractor that reads this book literally has $1 million cheat code in their hand that they should literally memorize from front cover to back. And if people recognize in the book that it talks heavily about posting content, about sharing yourself, that's because you need to do that also. There was this stat that I came across not that long ago, actually, after I wrote the book, about 20, let's call it 20 years ago. I don't know the exact timeline. 20 years ago, people's attention was shifted towards friends and family. 70% of their attention, friends and family. And then I don't know if you've ever watched those videos where the charts kind of move as time
Yeah.
progresses,
Yeah.
right? It was like, boom, 70% of people's attention is on social platforms, from friends and
Okay.
family
Right.
to nothing to social platforms. And there was a point in my business where I had to make a decision in marketing how I market my business. There was the yellow pages. You remember the yellow pages?
Yeah. Yeah.
You get the big, thick phone book. It's dropped on your doorstep, and you open it, and there's a beautiful centerfold of the pizza company that they just spent $70,000 on this advertisement. And I'm starting my business at this time, and I'm like, okay, I need to go in the yellow pages, right? Like everyone else.
Yeah.
And so I call in, I pay, and I was like, this is crazy. This is so much money for what? And I'm like, well, screw it. I'm just not going to use the phone book. So I dropped it. I dropped the phone book in that moment and I shifted all into social. This was many years ago, shifted all into social. But what happened was I gave up on a percentage of people, right? I gave up on the elderly, the people that are still using the phone book, but I capitalized on 70% of the market that was on social and I
Yeah.
gave up 30%. I gave up to marketing to the very expensive, hard to get in front of 30% of people to capitalize and focus on the 70% of people. And what this is relevant is that marketing your business now, and this is what I talk about a lot in the book, to get in front of opportunities, you need to market your business, and the biggest platform is social. So, do you want to go a little bit in on the largest platform, or do you want to be all in? And then, do you want to be the best at being all in? Because then you close the gap on the 30% that's out there in space that's really hard to get to. So now you get all 70% and then you get the next 10 or 20% of
Yeah.
the market share. And that's really what I work with. Like, that's what the book really, I think will do the best is with people that really like, we don't start business to fail. We do this to win. And if you're
Yeah.
not doing it to be the best at it, then why do it?
Yeah. Particularly, I
Right?
think in the future, we've spent the first part of the conversation here talking about the accelerated opportunities that technology is bringing, and that speed and acceleration is only getting faster. I can't see a scenario short of something catastrophic, and then we've all got other problems to worry about. But there's no scenario where this is slowing down. The genie's out of the bottle, and if we if there are business owners complaining about a noisy environment now and it's difficult to get in front of customers, it's only going to get worse because it's easier and easier for people just to push a button and create generic stuff. So the generic stuff today is 10 times better than the generic stuff of yesterday, and maybe even 10 times better than the non-generic stuff of yesterday because it's that good. But still, all it's going to do is rise the tide. And if you don't move at all, then you're going to be underwater. But there's still an opportunity. All that's done is move the baseline. The opportunity that you've got by kind of owning the space and claiming it is to still be 10, 15, 20% above the baseline. So by
Yeah.
putting yourself out there and starting those relationships, so that's 70% of people who have got that short attention span, who are just consuming on social, who aren't going to remember that you were the plumber that worked with them 15 years ago. So they're going to try and go to the drawer and dig out an old business card or work out where that fridge magnet fell off the fridge and ended up somewhere. They're just going to be presented with another thing on social. And if it's not your thing, and if you're not there regularly enough so that they also feel like they've got some kind of relationship, that's going to be a very difficult place to play in. And I think that people are going to be underwater and they're going to drown. I mean, it's non-negotiable.
The cool thing about this book is that this is not like a single tactic strategy. We actually encompass a lot of the other tactics that are required to get in front of those 30% of people.
Right.
The 30% of people can be very, very expensive, but you can actually use the military of the 70% of people that you have to
Yeah.
enforce on the 30% that you don't have. And
Right.
so what we actually do is we activate that larger group to then go get the people for us. And what's really unique is this book is not just a big social guide on like how to, post content. That's in there, but it's also a guide on how to close jobs, how to get in front of more
Right.
people faster, and how to actually run a business. Like a
Yeah.
business depends on leads. It depends on success. It depends on profit. I heard this Grant Cardone said this one time, or somebody from in his group. The person who has the most money to get clients wins. And at the end of the day, the person who understands how to use their money to get clients and has the most money will dominate.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, so I've read this book numerous times as we're editing it, obviously, to the point where I was just like sick and tired of it. Because I was like, oh, back here we go, back again, doing a full front to back edit. And I'm just like, okay. I put a lot of work into this to make sure that the tools that are put in front of people will be life changing. I one time in my first part of this coaching journey, I was taught to, focus on monitoring your time, organize yourself and make sure that your business is running efficiently. And I just like, this doesn't feel like the right mission.
Right.
Didn't feel like the right mission. And then I changed it to be, you know what? I'm going to put money aside. I'm going to solve the biggest frickin' problem on planet Earth and the money will follow. So I don't care about the money. I didn't care about any of these things that everyone told me that I should really, really care about. I just hyper focused on delivering excellence, solving a really big problem, and then the money started raining. And so the
Yeah.
same thing within the book. I literally give you everything. If you read this from front to back, 2 or 3 times, 4 or 5 times, and you implement these custom GPT prompts and you go to our website and you use the tools that we built for you, you will be in a place with your business. If you drop your ego and actually retain what we're teaching you, you'll be in a place in your business that you probably wouldn't be for the next 10 years of your life. Guaranteed.
Yeah. It's such a great opportunity to really give people some tactical steps that they can just feel like they're making progress and then open their eyes to a bigger strategy of a different way of thinking about things, but really kind of stepstone people down that route until they're ready to really move and accelerate. I want to make sure that we give people a chance to see whether they can get a copy of the book and the website and learn more about you outside of the call. And I think I'd recommend that to whether people are contractors or not. I mean, some of the contact is written for or using contractors as the example, but I mean, that's another benefit of the world that we're in. Just take all of these examples and then just change the context to your own situation and then use whatever's out there. So, where's a good place for people to go to find out more?
Well, I am actively and primarily on social media. You will, if you do message me, it will be me responding most cases. On Instagram at the underscore contractor coach. I also have a podcast that I just started, which is called On Site. And the book will be live on Amazon, depending on when you're listening to this. It may already be live. We just did the final edits on the cover, final edits on the inside stuff is just coming together. And if you want to purchase the book, you'll go to Amazon, or we will probably have a buy link right on our website where the custom GPT will be living. We built a custom build bot GPT on our site that allows you to grab the prompts from in the book instead of just inserting them into your own GPT that's sourcing from space. You go to our website, which is ebsworks.com. So ebsworks.com. You go to that site, there's a drop down and our own custom GPT. Once you register your book, you'll be able to take the prompts from our book and insert them into our custom GPT on our page, and it will source from everything we're feeding to help you grow your business.
It's
It's
such a
wild.
great, it's such a fantastic closed loop system. I know we're up on time, so we need to wrap up, but we should definitely circle back in a couple of months and then see how that, because people will be actually using the prompts by that point, and we should circle back and just see how what the experience has been and then what learnings you've taken from it and how it's developed. So let's do that for sure. But what I was quickly going to wrap up and say is, and again, this is for people listening and thinking about their situation through the lens of your example. The fact that you've got previous coaching calls that are recorded, you've now got a book, which is 15, 20,000 words or so. You've got the podcast, which is 30, 40, 50 minutes of content every episode as source material of specific content that you're talking about stuff in the way that you do it, exactly the same as we do with all of our books and the client calls that we've had and the 200 or so podcasts that we've got, that as source material for the LLM, for the AI tools, just allows it to be so dialed in. So for people listening who don't have a podcast, who don't have a book, who are just doing calls on the phone and not recording them, do that now. Start capturing everything because the more source material that you can have, specifically talking in the way that you talk and the things that are important to you, just means that whatever prompt that you get from Brandon, whatever prompt you get from somewhere else, whatever work you do yourself is just going to be so much more specific to your situation. So yeah, this has been a great example of using those tools for people. And in an industry that you
Yeah,
wouldn't
that
necessarily think about, which I love as well.
yeah, the like, you could hypothetically, I haven't done this, but you could hypothetically just record a Zoom meeting with yourself and have a Fathom or a note taker connected to the call and literally just talk to yourself. Like just talk about the ideas that you want to create. If you're trying to write a book, I've done several different attempts at writing a book. This was the first great success. And I think I needed those other attempts to have the appreciation for what it actually needs to be. And you don't know this, but I'm already halfway through my next book, which is
Fantastic.
about your
It's addictive.
superpowers.
It's
And
like
it's
tattoos, right? Once you got one, it kind of
yeah,
carries
yeah,
away.
I've got a couple too. But if you record yourself talking about this and you use the AI tool we're humans. I'm not going to say we're stupid, but we are distracted people, right?
Right.
We're natural. AI is 1000% on every time you tell it to be on. So if you
I haven't
record
yet seen
yourself,
I haven't yet
yeah, you
seen
record
a
yourself,
ADD diagnosis for an LLM tool.
yeah, you could record yourself talking and then dissect it and say, help me do this, that, or the other. Help me, build the SOP for my employees.
Yeah.
It is literally limitless. And the first thing is there's this book also that I really, really love. My favorite book is Atomic Habits. Literally changed my thought process. It was one of the first books I read. Actually, I'm not a big book reader, but once I got into that book, I was like, okay, I'm a little bit hooked. But you can implement a 1% increase into your life every day. And if you don't know how to use ChatGPT and you don't know how to do any of these things, it doesn't matter. All you have to do is just one
Yeah.
action every day. So,
Yeah. Get
action number one,
started.
download. Action number two, ask it a question and
Yeah.
then get better and better every day. That's how I
Yeah.
did it.
Yeah. It is exciting times. I mean, there's things will change, but I think for the people who are open to that change, it's yeah, really limitless opportunities. Time goes fast as always on these podcasts. I think I wrap up every call by looking at the clock and realizing that it's vanished. We'll definitely circle back though in a couple of months and check back in on how things are going. This podcast, we're end of June as we're recording, so I think we're about 3 or 4 weeks out on releasing. So the Amazon release will be done by that point, I'm pretty sure. We'll put links to everything, including the Amazon link in the website and the social links in the podcast notes. So as you're listening to this, you can just click straight through. And yeah, I highly recommend it. Brandon, thanks again for your time. It's been really good. Really excited to circle back and yeah, give everyone an update on how it's going.
Awesome. I really appreciate it. Great conversation.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. Everyone, thanks for listening. And as always, we'll catch you in the next one.